What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Early Wedge. The PGA Championship has come and gone, and Scottie Scheffler is your champion. Jason Sobel, no surprise, although it did get a little hairy for him on his front nine. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Walked most of the front nine with him, and yeah, by the time I walked off 9 green, I was like, "Ooh, we got a ball game here." It was tied at that point. Rahm is. By the time I walked from 9 green back to the press building here, Rahm had tied Scottie Scheffler atop the board. It was like, "Ooh, what's going to happen?" Really strange, Sid. I know we're going to get into a lot of things here. In yesterday's third round, it took less than an hour and a half for Scottie Scheffler to not only erase a 2-shot deficit, but take a 3-shot lead, a 5-shot swing at the top of the board. Today, in the final round, it took Scottie Scheffler less than an hour and a half to go from tied for the lead to a 5-shot lead later in the back nine. That's remarkable. To do that once is remarkable at a major championship. To do that twice just exemplifies everything we've come to learn about Scottie Scheffler. He can put his foot on the gas pedal perhaps better than anybody else, especially in the major championships, as we've seen.
I mean, it was so interesting to see him unravel, at least for Scottie Scheffler, unravel on the front nine. He bogeys the first one, trouble off the tee on the front nine, just across the board. There was a bogey on 6, trouble. I'm just looking at my notes, trouble on 2 off the tee. I think it just seemed like he didn't have the driver at all. And then by the time he's done with his front nine, well, Jon Rahm has just birdied 3 of his last 4 to tie him up, and he's only a couple of holes ahead of him. And the way their trajectories were going, it just seemed like, I mean, if you looked at the odds, which I did, and I didn't bet anything in that moment, at least. And by the way, the Early Wedge had a great betting day, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think Scottie was minus 200. I think when it became a tie ball game, Scottie was minus 200, and I believe, depending on where you looked, I think BetMGM had Jon Rahm at plus 140. Mm-hmm. Jason, the way their trajectories were headed, and I understand it's Scottie Scheffler and he can rebound, but it was 9 holes of Scottie Scheffler like not being vintage Scottie Scheffler and Jon Rahm looking like vintage Jon Rahm from a few years ago on the PGA Tour. If somebody were to have taken that plus 140 or plus 150 on Rahm in that moment, I would have been like, yeah, go for it. Like, that seems like a pretty good number. How about you?
Yeah, I probably would have recommended the same thing. It looks like Scottie Scheffler's leaking oil, can't get anything going, and Jon Rahm has a ton of momentum at that point. Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense to take the guy who's obviously playing some good golf, and it's not like this is Davis Riley or JT Post. This is Jon Rahm. This is a guy who's won 2 major championships. It's not a guy who you would think would back down from this, and quite frankly, Jon was in it for a while. He lipped out a birdie putt. He missed another one by inches. Then, of course, it all unraveled over the last 3 holes. But look, Scottie Scheffler did exactly what he needed to do down the stretch. This is what champions do. And he at least let us have a little drama there for a while and then said, okay, we're done with that. Let's close this thing out. And that's what he did.
Rahm hit a couple of, in my opinion, really good putts on back-to-back holes. And I can't remember if it was on 13 and 14 or 14 and 15, whatever it was, where he ended up making par. And I'm looking at this scorecard here. It must have been 10, it must have been 12 and 13 or 13 and 14.
Yeah.
Where it just, like, they were just great putts and he just missed. There was a few just misses for Rahm. And I will say this, credit to Jon Rahm. Because you know how, Jason, sometimes, like, especially in the live betting show that we do on Sunday, which, by the way, is going to move to a slightly earlier time, everybody. But when we do that show and we have a guy like Jon Rahm that's in contention, we always say that sort of like very cliche thing like, hey, you know, he's not going for second place. Like, he doesn't care if he finishes 20th or if he finishes second. It's all the same. Well, the embodiment of that was Jon Rahm on the final 3 holes today. Like that. So it's not just a cliche. Like, this is an actual, like, Jon Rahm didn't care about whether he finished. I mean, I'm sure he's disappointed, but he was going for it in a way where he knew he was about to sacrifice hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and second place versus, I don't know, where did he finish? Like 9th place, 10th place, whatever it was. He just went for it.
Looking at it so far down the board, tied for 8th place.
Yeah.
Big tie for 8th place.
So, I mean, again, it's not just a cliche. Like, that's an actual thing. If you're JT Poston, if you're Davis Riley, you know, I don't know. Maybe you don't go. I don't know. Maybe you do. What's your opinion there? Like, some of those golfers kind of like that second place finish there.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Scottie Scheffler is one shot up and you got a chance to attack a flag stick and go for it, try to win a major championship, I don't care if you're John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Davis Riley, JT Poston. You're going after it. And you're trying to win a major.
Yeah, sure.
Said, if Scotty's 4 up, 5 up, and you're playing the last hole, and you're like, hey, we can make a par and go to Augusta next year. Well, that's a pretty good little consolation prize. And so for John Rahm, yeah, you're right. He doesn't care. And we talked about this on the Early Wedge show last night in relation to both Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. And I said, look, they're going to play aggressive golf. They're going to try to take some more aggressive sight lines. They're going to fire at some flag sticks. Yes, at some point, that can equal birdies, and they can go on a little birdie barrage. At some point, though, that can get them in trouble. That's exactly what we saw from John Rahm today, which was when the aggressive play worked, he was climbing that leaderboard, and then all of a sudden you play aggressive and it doesn't work for you anymore, and you're like, okay, I'm dropping down, and that's okay. John Rahm sounded like he was not as mad as you would think John Rahm would be after that performance. I'll put it that way afterwards. And he knows he gave it his all, and it just came up short over those last 3 holes. But a good performance by Rahm. I still think he is a top 5 golfer in the world, and I know that we're going to get into it. The last 6 major championships have been won who I think are the top 4 golfers in the world. I'm not sure how anyone could really argue it, but Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and Bryson DeChambeau. In my mind, it's fairly clear right now. Those are the top 4 in the world, and I'd put John Rahm number 5.
Yeah, fair enough. And by the way, Josh weighing in here, he thinks it was 12 and 13, correcting me on the 13 and 14, where Rahm missed some really good putts that were just, again, we don't know where this tournament would have gone if he had made those putts. It's just a lot of times it kind of swings on burning some edges there. I think the putt on 14 was actually a bad putt from John Rahm. Let's talk about, you mentioned Bryson DeChambeau. Let's talk about him for a minute, because it seemed like this entire tournament that he was close, but he just wasn't completely dialed in. Today, there was some approach stuff, which he's been having this whole tournament. There was some around the green play, which could have certainly been better. Your thoughts on Bryson in terms of, I guess, how round 4 went?
Look, I'm not going to criticize Bryson whatsoever. He shot 70 in round 4. That's hardly a bad score around Quail Hollow in these conditions. I was actually really impressed by his short game around the greens. So often we saw guys hit an approach shot that would bounce on the greens, like, oh, that's really good. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it just got past the hole. That's okay. That's still trickling. Oh, it's going further. Oh, there it goes off the green. Now it's in some thick stuff just off the green. It's like, wow, that was a really good approach shot, and the guy's going to struggle to get it up and down. So often we saw guys either fluff it and leave it a little short, or get too much of it and hit it well past the hole. I thought Bryson's weight on his wedge game around the greens was fantastic. The driver game is always really good. Obviously, he's going to be long. He's going to be so long that we're all tweeting about how long he is. We're all impressed by how long he's hitting it, even though he's been doing this for years now. That's it. I thought he played really well all week. And look, if you come in second place in a major championship and you don't quite have your best stuff, it's probably a really good sign moving forward.
Yeah, fair enough. Jordan Atienza saying, Bryson, not a big win guy. PS36 is in here. D Johnson is in here. If anybody wants to weigh in, anybody has any comments about any of these players, I mean, it did feel like it was a lot of Scottie, Jason, and a lot of Rahm as this thing sort of started shaping up in the 4th round. DeChambeau was there, but he always felt like he was just a little bit too far out of reach. There were other guys, though, at least to address here. Harris English going 6 under. And for the record, if you are an early wedge watcher, I think on the betting show, Jason, we might have talked more about Harris English than anybody. I had him in the without market at 110-1, and I also had DeChambeau in the without market at 10-1, thanks to the show that we did on Sunday. So if Davis Riley hadn't made that final putt on 18, we would have just had the 2 that I had basically splitting. But Matt Every, who joined us for the betting show, he had Harris English top 5 at 25-1. So there was just so much Harris. And by the way, this is funny how this worked out. I had Harris English I went 5-1 on matchups this week, including my round matchups. And the one that I thought I was going to lose was Harris English minus 115 over JT Poston. And JT Poston missed his final putt on 18 to drop one shot and fall out of a tie. So my split was a 3-way split instead of a 4-way split, thanks to JT Poston. And I won the matchup. We got to give some flowers to Harris English, though.
Yeah. Look, Harris played fantastic golf. Again, a little bit out of it. He didn't necessarily have the heat of being in the moment on him. But you know what? A second place is second place. No one's going to remember when they look at your Wikipedia page 7 years from now. How did you get there. It's a backdoor. Rory always gets criticized for these backdoor top 5 finishes, and I always say, well, the final round counts just as much as the first round. Why does it matter if it's a front door top 5 or a backdoor top 5? And so Harris English gets the quote-unquote backdoor top 5. Who cares? He gets a lot of really big things that come with that. Not only, I believe, because second place was somewhere in the $2 million range, so I don't know when it chops 3 ways what it is, but it should be a 7-figure paycheck for not only Harris English, but Bryson and Davis Riley. It's big for Davis Riley. Those guys are assured of going to the Masters next year, playing in all the other major championships. That's big. You get into a lot of good things. You do a lot of good for yourself when you play this well in a major championship. So Harris, and if Harris goes out and wins at some point, I remember one year, is going way back, Jason Duffner, and the rules have changed, the goalposts have changed a little bit, but Jason Duffner played really well on a Monday. That's right. They used to finish on Labor Day for the Deutsche Bank Championship. And because he played well enough, he moved up on the FedEx list, and he got into the Tour Championship. And because he got into the Tour Championship, he got into the majors the next year. The next year, he played really well at the PGA, got him into the following year's PGA. He won. Maybe he would have got there anyway. Maybe he would have won. Maybe it wasn't a big deal. But you can directly draw the lines and connect the dots from getting into certain events to moving on and becoming a major champion. Who knows? Maybe for a guy like Davis Riley, at some point in the next few years, he wins a major, and we can point to he got into them all because of this second place finish, got experience, played well, got into more, and used that as a stepping stone.
One thing that was so impressive about Davis Riley, outside of the fact that Davis Riley was even in this thing, because our show, we've talked about Davis Riley, he's popped up here and there. I know Patrick McDonald's been a huge fan of his game, but I don't think anybody really thought, especially his recent form hasn't been great. I don't think anybody thought Davis Riley was going to be anywhere near the top of this leaderboard. But the manner in which he comported himself after the triple bogey, which I can't remember, somewhere on the front 9, and for him to have just shot a solid round after that is super impressive. And then I honestly, I was not happy about it because I didn't want the split with Davis Riley at 6 under, but here he was. I couldn't be more impressed. Jonathan Vegas, your guy, you talked to him all week, ends up 5 under. And this is a stat you dropped up. It was so funny on Friday when you interviewed Johnny Vegas. I was listening on PGA Tour radio, and you just good for you, because you were like, hey, Johnny, I hate to, talk to you about the elephant in the room, but you've never top 20 to a major. And I thought he responded great to that question, but here he is. He finally top 20 to major.
Yeah. Look, I'm bigger than him. I can take him if he gets mad at me. He's a big dude. I want
He's
no part of
huge.
that. No. Look, you have to ask the questions. I didn't even think that was a tough question. It's just a fact. You haven't played well in the major championships. You're playing well now. What's the difference? And he answered it great. Talked about the process. This is big for him. This is big for a lot of these players. Joaquin Niemann. I don't know if it's going to get him into more majors, but his first top 10 ever at a major. Phil called him the best player in the world a month ago. Kudos to Phil Mickelson for recanting on that. Went on Twitter about an hour ago and said, I get it. Scottie Scheffler is the number 1 player in the world. I agree with that now. Denny McCarthy continues playing really, really good golf. Very impressive. Ryan Gerard in his home state major championship finishes in the top 10. Joe Highsmith. Most people didn't even know Joe Highsmith existed under that big old floppy hat just a few months ago. And now he goes out there and gets the top 10. The Ryder Cup captain, Keegan Bradley, is up there. Keegan's going to make a serious case for himself to be on his own Ryder Cup team. We'll see how that goes. But look, underneath the A flight of Scottie Scheffler, with no one else playing in that A flight, apparently, that B flight was pretty good for getting into a lot of big things down the road.
Really impressive stuff from Niemann. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for his off the tee game on day 1, he would have been very much in this. And that's a big if, right? You were terrible off the tee. I wonder, Jason, because this is me just kind of thinking out loud. I know some drive, it wasn't just Rory's driver that failed inspection, if you will. The way Niemann hit it off the tee, I wonder if he was one of the other ones that had to switch out his driver.
I believe it's out there. I believe it's been reported.
Okay, fair enough.
Not Niemann, but there's a player who did very, very, very well this week, whose driver may have been non-conforming at the beginning of the week.
Interesting. I actually do want to ask you about Rory himself. I want to touch on that. Rick Gehman's going to join us in just a minute. By the way, Jordan Atienza says the T2s made over $1 million. $1,028,000 appears to be the number. So Jason, you were right about the 7-figure payday for Harris English, Bryson, and Davis Riley. That is awesome for them, and awesome for our early wedge tickets. We're going to take a break. We're going to have Rick very soon, and we're going to answer some of your questions and comments. We're going to talk about Rory McIlroy right after this message from our partners.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
We are back on the early wedge. We got Rick Gehman. I said you were going to be here soon, and
Out of breath.
There, I jump up. Can you guys hear me okay?
yeah, we hear you great, man. We hear you great. The hair's looking great. Everything's great. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I just ran over here from the set. So, yeah, I'm excited to chat with you fellas.
So we had just, Rick, kind of talked about Scottie's day and how Rahm made that charge. And I mean, anybody watching or listening to the podcast, thank you. But you all were watching too, right? You know that Rahm looked like – I want to get your thoughts, Rick, because when Rahm made, 3 out of 4 birdies, and he's just finished up 11, and he's tied now with Scottie Scheffler, who looks completely out of sync for Scottie Scheffler. I mean, really, truly out of sync, particularly off the tee. I was telling Jason that I took a peek at the numbers there, and it was Scottie at that point when they were tied at -200, and it was Rahm at +140, +150. And I was thinking to myself at the time, and I didn't make the bet, but I was thinking to myself at the time, like, gosh, it feels like Rahm is just way more dialed in right now. What was your thought when Scottie was making the turn?
Well, it was night and day. Sorry, they're making an announcement here, but I don't know what they're. Scottie Scheffler's coming to do media. It sounds like.
We'll keep them down.
Yeah. Well, the night and day difference between the front 9 and the back 9 for Scottie Scheffler, right? You had a situation where on the front, I'm not sure he hit a single good shot, and on the back, I'm not sure he hit a single bad shot. So at the moment, it did feel like it was Rahm who was charging, and I think what is really the testament to Scottie and his fundamentals is how he was able to reset and how he was able to get back to baseline. Because a lot of guys cannot make that adjustment during the middle of the round. So that's really a testament to his game. But yeah, Rahm played great. Got a little bit unlucky with a couple of putts that lipped out, and then probably was much too aggressive on the green mile, and it ends up costing him. But he doesn't care, right? 22nd, second, third. It's not, if it's not first, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we talked about that as well. And by the way, Jordan Atienza, I think he might have given the incorrect number. It might be 1.4 million. That second, third, or the T2s.
That sounds more right.
Yeah, 1.4 million is the right answer there. Rick, we talked about that too. Like how John Rahm didn't really care about the money, didn't care about the finishing position. Really, he was going for first place. So that and I see BGerm78 in the chat. He says, Sia and Jason, and this is before you got here, Rick. So Sia, Jason, and Rick, I had Rahm under 70.5 strokes round 4, and he totally choked last 3 holes. I wouldn't even call that a choke. That's just him going YOLO, right? I mean, just.
I hope so, right? I hope that's a scenario. I mean, yeah, I had him top live 3.5 to 1, and that was looking great for a while until he got to the green mile. So yeah, there were a lot of bad beats out there for Rambo, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to do press or if he's going to talk to anybody, but I would love to know, was he just trying to be aggressive on 17? Was he trying to win the golf tournament, or was that a bad shot? That would be interesting to hear his thought process then.
Yeah, I feel like not that I actually know. I feel like in the moment I was like, this guy's just going to go for it. And that it looked like that's exactly what he did, which also meant he hit a bad shot. But I think he just kind of didn't really care. Let's talk about, speaking of media, Rick. Jason, I want to go to you. My understanding is that Rory was just an absentee from a media perspective this entire tournament. Yes. And Rick, I mean, you can confirm as well, but Jason, I know you're close to it. Is that true? And just kind of your feelings on that.
He spoke in a pre-tournament press conference, and he did some one-on-ones before the tournament. So there was that, but he did not speak to the media after any of the 4 rounds. And I know people are going to say, well, He finished outside the top 40. I mean, who cares? Why do you guys need to talk to these guys every day? And my answer to that is that we don't. I personally have never been annoyed if a player says, look, I just shot 74. You know what? I'm going to go to the range. I'm going to go see my family. I'm going to go eat some dinner. I don't need to talk. You don't need me. I'm fine with that. Tiger did it infrequently, but he would do it on occasion if it was just sort of a nothing round, like, hey, I'm kind of middle of the pack. I shot even par. There's not much to talk about. And he would skip things every once in a while. But Tiger spoke to us more often than not. He was pretty good with his time. And Rory, especially, this bothers me a little bit just because I was in a little media scrum. This was at Pebble Beach last year. So we're talking about a year and a half ago. But Rory did his press conference there and then sat with a group of us reporters, probably 8 of us or so, for about 30, 45 minutes and talked about how he'd been to an F1 race just before this. And he'd watched the drivers give interviews 5-10 minutes before they got into these race cars and give interviews afterwards and give up so much of their time to the media. And he said, look, we have to increase our standard. We have to be better. We have to speak with you guys. We have to do more. We have to say yes to everything. And the fact that a few months later, he didn't win the U.S. Open, hopped in his car, slammed the trunk, drove out of there, peeled out of there, in fact. Week, he was mad about some things, didn't want to talk to me. You know what? You want to be a superstar, you want to go on Jimmy Fallon wearing your green jacket, then you know what? You have to play the other side of this too. When you don't want to be a superstar, you can't just say, all right, I'm going to take off my superstar shirt and I'm just going to be one of the guys and I don't want to talk after I shoot a mediocre final round in a major championship. You still have to do the job. It's part of your responsibility. Rory's the one that told me it's part of our responsibility. So I'm not making this up. He said it to me and then he's not filling it. So, I do have a problem with it from that perspective.
Rick, any thoughts there or any thoughts on how he comported himself from a game standpoint through 4 rounds? Obviously was never in it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'll defer to Jason entirely. I mean, he's been doing this for a lot longer. He has a lot more interaction with what the media protocols are and who's good at it, who's bad at it. Like, no, completely defer to Jason there. The Rory McIlroy on the golf course stuff, it was bad. It was bad. When you don't have your best weapon, the driver, you go into battle with that. Like, going into battle without your best weapon stinks, right? And that's exactly what he did. The rest of his game wasn't sharp either. I'm sure we will dissect whether this was like a hangover, whether this was the equipment thing, whether it was a combination of both. I'm sure there will be a lot of oxygen on that. But yeah, the fact of the matter was just Rory did not play well, and bad swings with the driver kind of led to a lot of that.
All right, let's go to a couple of comments in the chat. Go ahead, Jason, follow up.
So I'm just trying to find it here. There's a Golf Week story. I know that everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, well, Rory had his gamer driver deemed non-conforming, and that might have contributed to why he didn't drive it well and why he didn't play well this week. Okay, I'm looking at the story from Golf Week right now, and according to Schauffele, it says in this Golf Week story by Adam Schupak, McIlroy wasn't alone. He was under the impression that world number 1 and 54-hole leader, and of course winner now, of the PGA Championship, Scottie Scheffler, failed this week's driver test too. Quote, I think Scott is winning the tournament, and I think he switched to his backup too. That is from Xander Schauffele, so not necessarily confirmation, but Xander and Scottie are pretty tight. If Xander's saying it, it's probably not untrue. So I know we want to pile on Rory by saying, here's the excuse, he didn't have his gamer, and I know a lot of bettors are saying, hey, we need to know this stuff in advance. Guess what, guys? If you'd known that about Scottie Scheffler as well, you probably would have said, well, I'm not betting him. He doesn't have his gamer, and Scottie Scheffler, of course, went out there and won the golf tournament. So it goes both ways a little bit too. Yeah,
that's totally fair. I mean, there are things I definitely want to know. I don't know that, like Michael Thorbjornsen, if he had mono for like several months, I'd like to know that. If there's an actual cervical herniation with Jason Day, I'd like to know if that's true, if it's an actual hernia. Like, those are things I'd actually like to know. I think golf could do a little bit better than that now that we're all kind of being mixed up with betting partners and sponsors and things of that nature. You know the deal, Rick. He says, so I'm starting to think Scottie will end up on the Mount Rushmore of golf. Is that crazy? I mean, it's not crazy, right?
Well, it's the Mount Rushmore of golf is pretty crowded already.
Yeah,
right?
true.
I mean, you could go with any combination of
He's saying, well, just real quick, before you respond, he's saying I'm starting to think, meaning that he's not putting him there yet, but he's starting to think he might edge his way on there. Anyway, carry on, Rick.
Here it is, Rick. You've got to knock off either Jones, Hogan, Nicholas, or Woods. That's it. That's your 4 right now.
Right, which is that's pretty good. That's pretty good. In the modern game, yeah, like Scottie's the best player, definitely in the 2020s. Right, like something like that, but we're a long way from Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is a very specific thing. This is a sport that's been around for a very long time. There are only 4 spots. It is unforgiving. You don't get to stretch it out to 10. You don't get to stretch it out to 15. There are only 4 spots. That is how this works. So I would like to check back in on the Mount Rushmore conversation in 3 more years. Right, we have seen guys go through these runs: Brooks Koepka, Patrick Harrington, Jordan Spieth, Jason Day. They last for a variety of periods. The thing that gets you on Mount Rushmore is you do it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what Tiger Woods did. It's what all these other guys did. So, yes, it is an unbelievable stretch. It is amazing. It's incredible. We should all appreciate what's happening. But we need to be checking in like every 5 years to see the Mount Rushmore conversation. Jason,
your follow-up there.
Okay. I agree with everything Rick said. I'm not even close to putting him even in the conversation. Look, we're a month removed from Rory McIlroy capturing the career slam. Rory's at least ahead of Scottie in that line right now, and Rory's not even close to climbing the mountain to get near Mount Rushmore. So no, we're not getting anywhere close to it yet. That said, I want to ask you guys a question. I feel like I'm setting the right number here. Maybe it's going to be too low. And you guys tell me, yeah, it's absolutely over. I'm going to go over under 6.5 career majors right now for Scottie Scheffler. Where are you going?
I was hoping you were going to say 5.5. I think I would have gone over there. I mean, it's so many. I know. It's easy to be like in the moment. Like I think he's going to win 12, right? Like I just think he's going to win 12. But the game is so deep to think that anybody in the modern era is going to win 3 more or 4 more right now.
4 more. It's a better major career from here on in than he's had already.
Yeah, I probably have to take the under, but I would really, if there's anybody who has a good chance, I mean, like, I think he's the guy, right?
He's continuing to separate himself, though. I mean, he's winning tournaments in solid fields including this one, by 5 strokes. After playing non-Scottie golf for 9 holes, and I do think he has the temperament and he has just such a sweet, easy swing. I feel like if there were a candidate, and I do realize I'm being a prisoner of the moment to some degree. He's 28 years old. There's a lot of up-and-coming talent, but from a consistency standpoint, it feels like Scottie is on sort of a different plateau. That doesn't mean other people like Bryson don't have similar upside, but they don't have the consistency. They don't have the floor. And Scottie's floor can win tournaments, and I don't know that Scottie's floor can win majors. I just think I'm taking the over there, especially only at 28 years old.
I'm not sure if we're going to get into talking about the Charles Schwab Challenge here. I know we've got a lot to go over from the PGA Championship. It's coming up this week, and I don't know if people out there have looked at the field yet. As of right now, Scottie is in that field. As of right now, not many other guys that you know that well are in that field. This number is going to be unbelievable. Before he won this week, I was thinking it's like a minus 300, maybe minus 280 like he was at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. It might be minus 200 when it comes out tomorrow morning.
Do you think you mean plus 200, right?
Plus 200. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe minus
because minus 200 isn't like that crazy, but it's not going to be.
All right. Early odds are out. He is plus.
Can I guess? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No. That's about where I was going to go.
Yeah.
And then the next closest golfer is Jordan Spieth at 22-1.
First of all, when we attack this tournament, which starts tomorrow with the DFS show, we're obviously going to be talking about Scottie from a DFS standpoint. Betting market, I'm doing the without Scottie thing, just like I did with striking gold on Harris English and Bryson DeChambeau. But do we think there's a possibility he withdraws? He's not the guy that withdraws usually, but it's a no.
No, another hometown event. And by the way, a few things for you. A few things for Scottie, a few things against Scottie. For Scottie, the last time he won a major championship, he played the next week. All of the best players were in the field at the RBC Heritage, and he went out in there and won that one as well. The one thing against Scottie this week is that in the last 6 years, every player has been 30-1 or bigger going into the Charles Schwab Challenge, and 5 of those 6 have been 50-1 or more, including Davis Riley, who was like 300 last year. All that said, Scottie's been top 3 the last 3 years in this tournament. I mean, he might win by 19.
I mean, I don't know that plus. Did you say plus 250? Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if that gets bet down to plus 200 by the time this thing closes.
It will.
Okay, before we get out of here, let me ask you guys one thing. Was there anything that you took, whether it's from Scottie's performance or Rahm or, I don't know, Bryson or anybody down the board? I'm thinking of some of the guys that kind of attacked and had a good Saturday and Sunday. Fitzpatrick, Keegan Bradley, Denny looked good. Joaquin Niemann, of course. Yeah. When we're looking at Oakmont or we're looking at the Open Championship, anything that we're looking at in terms of, hey, these guys, I'm gonna kind of keep an eye on this guy or this guy heading into the next 2 majors.
I wasn't ready to get to Oakmont or Portrush yet, but I was thinking all week long that Ben Griffin is like super good, and he's like gonna win one of these like Charles Schwab challenges or like one of these John Deere Classics or something like that. He was in the mix, or not in the mix, but he was in the top 15 for the entirety of this tournament. I'm really impressed with the steps that Ben Griffin has taken. I will stop short at being interested in him at the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, but like that was the one guy that I'm like, I can't wait to get more exposure to Ben Griffin.
He was excellent. You're absolutely right. Jason, any comments there?
Yeah. So 2 things. First of all, I thought that somebody from the top tier would win this week. We talked about it earlier in the week where we said, you know what, it's a single bullet type of place. I went Scottie at the Masters and Rory here this week, so I feel like I should get half credit for those 2 plays. But it was one of those like pick your favorite top tier player, and if you had Scottie, congratulations to you. But I think Oakmont is even more so next month. And I know, look, we all love betting guys down the board with big numbers at major championships. The last 6, we talked about it earlier, last 6 have been won by Scottie, Xander, Bryson, and Rory, the 4 best golfers in the world. Good luck with your 150-1 ticket on Harris English next month, but if it's not in the without market, I don't feel really good about it. The other thing I'll say is that for a slow-moving game, everyone talks about how pace of play is terrible in professional golf and it moves too slowly. Things move so quickly. The narratives and the storylines move so quickly. It was not that long ago. I was on HQ, I think with you, Rick, just a few weeks ago, it seems like, when we were asked the question, what's wrong with Scottie Scheffler? Should we be pressing the panic button right now? And it was like, no, I don't think so, but, we'll see how he does this week. All of a sudden, he's won his last 2 starts by a combined 13 shots. We're talking about him maybe being on the Mount Rushmore of golf. I mean, I know that we're not there yet, but things change in a hurry in this game.
Rick, give us the last word on Scottie Scheffler or anything Jason just spoke about.
Just enjoy this. We're in a moment. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I mean, it's 3 years now to go to follow Jason's lead. I mean, when this started, we all just said it's a heater, right? This guy's on a heater. It's not a heater. He's really, really good, and he's winning at a rate that we haven't seen. We're really spoiled with this. Just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll say this. I wish when we had Scottie making the turn, I thought we were in for like a crazy great 9 holes with maybe Bryson battling back, but certainly Rahm being there and Scottie. I really wanted to see that. But I am kind of like encouraged, if we're going to talk about the U.S. Open, for example, that Rahm appears to be kind of back. I know Max Homa didn't have a good day, but that he appears to have his game at least somewhat in order. Certainly still erratic and inconsistent, but somewhat in order. Matt Fitzpatrick, not a big name, but certainly a bigger name. Joaquin Niemann, a slightly bigger name. Like a lot of these guys that include Bryson starting to show up a little bit. And I think that's just going to make for the second half of major season being really, really fantastic. And I'm very much looking forward to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rick Gehman. That's Jason Sobel. They'll be on all week. I'll be on all week with you. We're going to do the Monday DFS show tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We're going to be doing the betting show on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We had a great betting show, by the way, everybody. Matt Every, shout out to him, because I hit the Harris English without market one at 110-1, which of course was a 3-way split. But Matt Every came to that show with Harris English top 5 at 25-1. Like we were all over him. We hit up a lot of the matchups. We hit a lot of the finishing positions. So enjoy that show. Join us at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And I will say this, the live chat, Rick, that you and I are doing, I think that's going to move at least temporarily, but maybe permanently to the mid-afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock or so on Wednesday. We're going to be doing that live chat. That's subject to change, but just know that that's not coming right after the early edge on Wednesday morning. It'll be in the early afternoon. We'll update you on that. Thanks for joining us today. Congratulations to Scottie Scheffler, a great PGA championship. That's Jason, that's Rick, and a big thank you to Josh on the ones and twos. See you next time on the Early Wedge.